So it's going to be windy. I have no idea what's going to come out on this except wind. I'm down on the river again, going to give it another go. This time I come, wow, 3/4 of a mile, maybe 1,000 yards certainly upstream, come to the top end, walk down to one area, fancy it. I thought I'd just have a walk a little bit further. I found a spot I sort of fancy. It's a jungle, I'll show it to you. I seem to have cut right back here, but you can't see where the bank begins and ends here, so there's every chance, yeah, it's going to disappear there. There's a lot of lilies over there, you can see them. It's better to be windy. You can see all the lilies. That awful stuff, I call it spear blade. I don't know what they call it, long pointed stuff. If you get a fish in that or hook in that, it's game over. It's a shame they don't cut it all out. But now, that's what it is. Overgrown, trees hanging down. Might look all very, what do they call it? It might look sort of rewilding heaven, but for fishermen it's a bit of a nightmare. As is the undergrowth here. But fast streamy bit up there, which is like unfishable and weed. I have a feeling there might be good fish up there. Could possibly where the barbel are. I'm leaning out as best I can. I've got the jacket up, trying to keep the wind, but I'm fancying that bend there. I'm figuring on putting a bait down here. Just one out there, ledgering a bait, and one further down there. Because I'm high up, if I extend the landing net, if I hook anything at all, if it's small I can swing it in, but I might have a bit of a chance. The other place I couldn't really have any chance at all. What am I fishing with? Well, I've changed my tactics a little bit. I'm going to try a plastic golf ball feeder. Can you see that? I've used them before and the still water's really good. Got a weight in the bottom, a tube, a line, 6 pounds straight through, a swivel up the top there, hook here barbless, so I'm going to need a piece of tiny rubber band to hold my live bait on. The live bait is going to be a lobworm from Grant's Tackle Up. Hopefully it's a lucky lobworm, Grant. I need some luck the way things have been going on this river. I'm just going to be fishing a pair of these. I've got 2 hours fishing. I will be fishing into the dark. Let's get a bait in the water. I've already scattered a few pellets out there. I've no idea where I'm fishing. It could be yet another wee bed, and that means another blank. I've got some lobworms. There are 10 PC, that means they're 10R. There's only 10 in there, but they're all politically correct. Giant lobs. I figure it's the only way to go. I've got 10 baits to work with. We'll see how long they stay on the hook. Now, that is, as you all agree, no doubt a big worm. I'm going to call that the flat end, the tail, this end, the head. I'm going in through the top half, about 1 inch down. Pop it over the eye. Now this is a tip, I shouldn't be telling you this because there's going to be some smarty on YouTube that's going to copy this, put it up on YouTube, get a load of views, but this comes from sea fishing. Because it's barbless hooks, if you don't want to put a little tack of rubber band over the end, if you just roll and twist that worm, see I'm rolling it up? And then do the last couple of nicks by rolling the worm around like that, they find it difficult to unwind and come off the hook. It's a tip. You've heard it first on the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. No doubt you'll see it on other shows. I've got a good gob of ground bait on there like that. In fact, I'm going to top that up, lob it out there. It's just a bit of Bailey's horse feed and bran, and it's going to break up fairly quickly, but it's not fast flowing here. So let's get it in the water. There we go, there's a golf ball feeder. Strangling great lobworm. Just going to lob it over the back. I'm basically thinking of a chub, with obviously a lobworm that size. I'm thinking of chub. But whatever I get taking that, could be a perch. I've got to let the rod top, that quiver tip, pull down because it's a big worm. And they could grab the top half and miss the hook, so I've got to let it pull right down if I do get a bite. Oh, happy days. Right, let's get set up with the chair, sit back, relax, might blank. But I've got to try it. I've got to. I'm going to be fishing into the dark, by the way, 100%. And a couple of tugs on there, small fish tugs I'm feeling. On the left-hand one, cast down there. Could be little tiny chub like this. Could be small perch. Whatever's nibbling at it can't get that big lobworm down its hatch. So to get myself set up with a chair, I might have to move that one a little bit closer, I think. But if I did hook a fish, I can go out over the top and I'm lifting them up. I might have an outside chance. If they bury in that spear blade stuff or the rushes, I'm done. But listen, one decent chub would solve it. Oh. Left hand rod again. Still there. I figure it's a small fish, can't get out of the lobworm. There he goes, look, tugging away at it. What I could do to find out what they are is cut the tail off the lob, re-thread it with a small piece on there. I've got big baits because I want to catch a decent sized fish. I haven't got the net in the lucky position. Yeah, small fish. Whoa. Nearly had it there. I can actually net a fish up there if I can get it up that far, but I've got to pull it for all snags. Hang on. Right on. Looks like an eel. Well, better than last time, people. I did think it was perch, didn't I? And called it right with the perch there. So there could be big perch down there. Or it could be just these chappies. Either way, it's a fish. Gets me off the mark. Well, turn up for the books, people. The old golf ball swim feeder. Check this one, I thought it was a perch. A small wild brown trout. Well, that's neat, isn't it? Do you know, I was looking at those long lobworms in there thinking, I wouldn't surprise me if there's a big brown trout in there, and there's certainly small ones. If he's off the hook, he's fallen off. That is a nicely little marked fish. Well, what a start. And I'm using these white golf ball feeders for like the daytime fishing. I think they might think it's something like bread. So you look at that pool down there. That all looks very, very fishy to me. Just little slow pulls at it. I guess I get crayfish in here. Where doesn't have crayfish nowadays? There's the bite. I've got half a lobworm on one of these as well. Well, I sort of feel I'm almost a step in the right direction. Why I don't mind using a ground bait, and I sort of don't mind small fish at it first. I've got one on the right hand rod tapping away, is because they'll start activity going that might attract a nice big chub up, and he's going to push those small fish away and hopefully home in and pick up the lobworm. So when you get lots of small bites, that's one thing, but when they stop, that's when I'm looking, because that's generally when a bigger fish has come into the swim, push the small fish away, and then I'm expecting a good bite within, you know, 30 seconds, a minute, minute and a half, something like that. I'll go back in my little cocoon. I was going to bring the umbrella for the wind, I forgot it. See, but I could have fished it up under that tree cast down there. But I'm just looking at that bend. Such a shame these places are not geared up for the angler to fish from. You know, with a little swim cleared. All you got to do is cut this out. You don't have to cut it all out. Just cut this out. Put a few, get a boat or chest waders and lock those other bits off. So if you do hook a fish, don't lose it, because it's all in the favour of the fish at the moment. It might be a wonderful rewilding project, letting it all go wild like this. To me, it smacks of in need of maintenance for anglers. But I think I've only seen 2 anglers fishing here in the last 9 months, so that's tells its own story. And they all say it's really tough fishing. You can see when I pan around the sun there, when it goes that sort of yellow in the clouds, that's a sign rain's on the way. Well, I know the rain's on the way because I've seen the forecast, which is why I come this evening. But it still looks nice. But I've got about 40 minutes before the sun goes down, and you can tell this is all overgrown. A few weeks ago I tried and come last time, so they've cut all this. You can see over the back there they've got it all belled up. Oh. Small fish again on the left hand rod. I fully expect to see some wildlife, like I might see a barn owl. I've already seen a kingfisher go bulleting down here. There's the bite on that left hand rod. They like the left hand rod, which is, I'm guessing, under the tree. But I feel like I want to go and cut some of this nettles and rubbish out, you know, and get down there more. There is a little pushing bit there where somebody's pushed through the nettles, but I don't want to hook a fish in too tight an area and then I can't get it up. It's sort of pointless exercise, isn't it? Well, I've had a look down there. I've trodden some of the nettles down. It's very close to the tree. Must be me. I'm going to use a bit of a rod rest and I'm going to whack some of it down and see if I can't get it. It's only like 10 feet further down, but it would enable me to drop it in a clearer pool. I think I missed a bite then. Third species. Check this out. There, you can see that one. It's like a small gudgeon. So there's 3 species, so it's worth me moving on with this swim, see what I can beat down and get in there. You don't know when you're going to need a 50-year-old army lock knife. I clear a swim, 100% on moving. Much better, more accurate area I could drop a bait into. A bit late to move, but it's got to be done. I'm going to let that swim quieten down a little bit while I've beaten those. Now look, somebody's been through here looking. Can you see that? It's a tiny path, but not for ages. So there's obviously a hole through there. Do I need to investigate it at this stage? It's like chest high nettles. I don't think anybody's fished there for a while. It tells me maybe either an otter's gone through there or another angler. Sun over there is getting lower. I just thought I'd walk along because I haven't cast out again when I move, just let it settle down. So here it sort of narrows, there's more weed. You barely find the river. This is what all our rivers are like now. It's tiny, but it picks up in speed. And I feel this is a stretch along here. There might be barbel. So where I am, up in that bend, I'm figuring anything trickling down there might actually pull a fish up. 100% angler's been in here. It's telling me it's got barbel all over it, so that's going to be another evening for me. A ton of weed under the surface. But can you see that? This awful spear blade stuff, somebody tell me what it's called. I've called it lost fish and lost feeders and lost leads. Way faster down here. All the way through for 150 yards, but a nightmare of weed. Really needs to get in with a pair of chest waders and a scythe and actually make some swims. I don't actually see anywhere you can fish there, but I feel absolutely sure underneath that there's going to be some barbel. Well, they say there's not many left, a few big ones apparently. I'm not really into fishing for one big one. I haven't got time for that. Wind's gone down anyway, guys, that's one good thing. And since I moved, I haven't had a bite. I reckon that might be the disturbance I've made. Just got to wait till it gets dusk or dark now. The thing is, I expect you guys have had it as well. My throat's a bit raggedy. Have you ever get it when you wake up in the morning and your throat is like full of what feels like crumbled up, broken glass? Well, I just know when I get that swallowing float nasal type feeling, the bug is coming. It's on the way, it's coming. So I figure it's tonight, paracetamol night, and tomorrow waking up feeling grotty, and then a couple of days coughing and wheezing on the chest as it does. It's just the way it is. And also I think it maybe comes with the damp of the autumn. So being out here in a nice damp night is perhaps not the wisest decision, but I just know when I get that raggedy throat feeling, draggy, you think, oh, it feels like a rough feeling in your throat. Yes, you've already got the bug. I've done a nasal wash, I've done a throat wash with salt, and sometimes that kills it. Sometimes he goes away, and sometimes he don't go away. I've had 2 little taps on half a lobworm since I moved. Was it a wise decision moving? I thought so at the time, perhaps now. Don't know. I have to wait until it's dark. I've got not a lot of ground bait, look, just enough for the feeder. Lobs I'm obviously going to be okay for if the bites stay like this. But I'm looking for one chub. And the fact the small fish appear to have gone off the bite could be to do with dusk. It could be a pike's in the swim, because I've had plenty of pike up and down the river. That's about the only thing I've had. It could be a pike's moved in the swim, or it could be some big chub have moved in as well. Or a big chub, any chub. But what an evening. Still perfect, no people. All the noise of the games area, tennis courts, that's all gone, so hopefully I got it to myself now. Just want to see one of those. Just goes to show the appetite on these perch. We all caught perch years ago as kids. Strangling great lobworm. And Mr. Perch has had a good go at it. Well, dusk is approaching. It is actually dusk, but that camera doesn't show it. So there's always a chance now of something hopefully decent. Well guys, here we have your friend of mine, not, that's right, Mr. Crayfish, ready to snip your line in half, steal every bait you've got, and generally kill everything. Now, you can't return these, so he has got to go hunting in the field. Out you go, and he might get trodden on. You're not allowed to put them back in the water apparently, so they tell me. They are a pain in the you-know-what. Right, pitch black now as you can see guys. If this is all I'm going to get, then I'll give it till about 10 o'clock tonight and that's me done. Well guys, nothing else happens, turn that off. Full moon's come up through the trees there. I'm not a lover of the full moon, I have to say. I normally pack up with the full moon. Occasionally on beaches, but even then I don't really like it. Perhaps in the winter. Just literally had no bites now at all, so I'm pleased I caught something anyway. But we're going to come again and do another couple of hours in the evening. It's 10 o'clock at night, so that's long enough for me, and a bit croaky with the throat now. So get back, fill up the pills, have a night's sleep, do some work, and in a couple of nights I might actually pop down and have another go. And if there's a bit of rain, it might freshen it up, who knows. Bit annoying with the crayfish. Don't know how they're ever going to get rid of those, you know. Shoot them, I should think. 12 gauge, short, close range. Well, listen, talking of that, let's drop into Grant's Tackle Up. He actually does that sort of stuff, and he'll give you some tips, because there's nothing really I can do more here now other than stay all night, and you guys might not want to do that. Let's go over to see what Grant's up to in his shop.
Hi Graeme, so you pop back in the shop and I'll tell you a bit about the other side of the shop we do, which is air rifles. So this is my flagship gun in my eyes, which is a Viroc HW100, which is what we call a PCP, which is filled with breathing air for firing. We've got side cocking lever, multi-shot, which is quite cool. So we've got 14 shots in there, so we get 2 of them with each gun, and then you just have to pop them in, and then every time you load and fire, it rotates. Can you see? I have to pull the trigger every time.
Yeah.
So, something different.
That's what, 177 or 22?
This one's a 177. So in 177, a lot of the target shooters use them, which you get a longer, flatter trajectory. So basically, better target gun. So a bit more accurate. If guys are sort of vermin shooting, they go with the 2.2 version. So there's so many variations of gun. As you can, if you look behind me, there's loads up there. So
I feel like we're in Texas.
We'd like to be, we'd like some real ones, but what we do, so we start a company called Day State, which is an English company, which a lot of people do know. And then we do Air Arms as well, which is another brand. And we do a few random ones, like the cowboy guns that flick the shells out.
Oh yes, yeah, the old Winchester.
Yeah, that's it, very similar. And these are what we call like rat catchers, which are quite known for just people using them for vermin shooting, really. And then we go back over this side, we've got the BSAs, which are like, they're top of their game as well, and then we've got this particular one that's a different, it's an FX Nordic Wolf. So loads of ranges. If you swing round behind you, I've actually got all your spring guns here, so they're all pre-pneumatic air ones.
That's what I got when I go for rodents and stuff.
Rodents, that's it, yeah, just your little spring gun. So yeah, you get lots of varieties on here. So this is an older gun that's a pre-owned for sale. Then we've got all the more modern ones which get a bit nicer with the wood and the colours. So this is what they call a laminate stock in blue. And those are underlevers, which we can probably get one out in a minute, show you the difference between a brake barrel and an underlever.
Yeah.
Yeah, just mixtures of different guns really. So this is my cheaper range for general garden pests that people buy. For like rats.
What's with this?
Rabbits.
Is that some weird silencer thing?
Yeah, so it's called a shrouded barrel with the built-in silencer. Takes a bit of the muzzle brake away, but you'll always get the spring noise going off inside because it has to be compressed and let go. So you're always going to hear that. So
assuming anybody comes in and they want to do a bit of vermin shooting, what is the more popular? Is it going to be a spring or the PCP with the air?
It would be a spring gun. So cheaper option. Basically, you can get your kit with your scope, your gun, your bag and everything for about 200 quid roughly. So if you are purely, you're buying to get rid of rats and things, which happens quite often, especially this year, seems to be a good year for rats, they will buy a spring gun. The guys who are more into it or want to show off a bit, or competitions with friends shooting at home or at the clubs, they start buying the pre-charged ones.
Now can you go out, assuming you got permission, because I know Mike does it, and you get permission from the owner and the certain paperwork and stuff, so, and you could do rabbits. What can you do?
So you could shoot
in eating
yeah,
food.
So rabbits. You should squirrels. Squirrels are good eating as well, Graeme.
I haven't eaten one, but I've certainly moved a few on. Yeah.
Yeah. So rabbits, squirrels, rats.
Also, there's a limit on the pressure that comes out, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So all of these in my shop are sub 12 foot-pounds. So they'll all be under 12 foot-pounds of hitting pressure. So they will be around about 11.2 to 11.5 to allow different variations of weights of pellets that will make it go over the legal limit. So everything you will buy in here is on a proof of address. There's no licence required, so you need a proof of address with you and an ID. That's it, I put them out to you. If you looking at the other side of guns that are overpowered, they're on a licence ticket. So
this is still what I call a pellet gun, a 2-2
yeah,
or
still
something.
a pellet gun. So we do pellet guns. They generally come in a sub 12 foot-pounds.
Yes.
And when you buy your FAC, your Section 1 licence versions, they come out 30 foot-pound, 60 foot-pound.
Oh really? I never knew that.
100 foot-pound.
100. Holy.
So 100 foot-pound to change the calibers, you generally be on a .25 and a .30. Which is a much bigger pellet than what you'd normally see. So your normal pellets. So when we're talking about pellets, these are the different sizes they come in. So what you guys will know as is a 1.177, which is a very small pellet, which is 4.5 millimeters. Okay, and I'll go through something else on them in a minute about the skirt sizes on the back of the pellets, which a lot of people aren't aware of. Then we get a 2-2 pellet.
Hooray!
Which is quite common to people for the vermin shooting, a bit of everything. Yeah. And then we start jumping up in sizes. So you do get some sub 12s in this, but generally this goes onto your FAC licence. So that's a .25 pellet, but with what we call a split tip.
Now what's that for?
So what happens is, basically, yeah, so the idea of it is when it hits when you're vermin shooting, we use these, when it hits, it basically collapses, expands and goes through, which then obviously...
It's like a dum-dum, the old gangster Chicago dum-dum.
Exactly that. So rather than say like a pointed pellet, which people generally go to buy, goes straight through and out of an animal and they run off, which I'd rather you do the
drop
business, it's there, it's done. Right, and then we go, so you'll get these in sub 12, but generally you're on your FAC at 60 foot-pounds when people start using these. Yeah. And then if you look at this is a bit of a...
That's an animal pellet.
That is a huge pellet, a .30. So, and they use these in all the FAC Section 1s, which will be like 100 foot-pounds. Wow. Which are massive, you know. In America, they go up to everything you can ever imagine. A 177, a .22, a .25, and that's your .30. So those are your three variations of pellet size.
So if I put that one, the little one, which I barely pick up, that size.
You can see the...
You can see it's a pretty staggering size.
That'd be your standard. It does jump up a bit.
That's an animal pellet. That's Ramblers as well, that's going to do.
You wouldn't want to catch that anyway.
Yeah. Now, just on top of vermin, because I know there's two situations here, people use a lot of target shooting, and we talked about, you know, they do vermin. I've got the old spring loader, and I find if I've missed something, I've got all that arm movement to reload the spring. So would you say a lever one is going to be better because you've got less arm movement? Because I have to reload a single pellet.
So a lot of people vermin shoot when they get into it. If it's shooting one or two rats, they use the spring gun. What happens is by the time you break the gun, fire it, missed it, you go to break the gun again, the rat's gone.
And the noise of the spring.
The noise of the spring. So this is really silent. I mean, I'll have to do a demo if I want some air in. Actually, we'll do this then. So when you actually, with the silencers on them, they are so quiet, and it is literally pull the lever, over, fire, and you'd be firing again straight away. So you'd be straight on your actual what you're shooting at instantly. So you've got a good chance of killing your rat straight away rather than if you've missed it.
It is.
With Graham's poor shooting, he's
with my eyes, should have got a spec save, so I've got a bigger gun.
Well, this is like...
That's my era.
So, this is actually an underlever.
Oh, yes,
barrel. Okay, this is an old BSA air sporter. These are about coming on 40 years old now, I would say, roughly. And you... That's your lever. And you pull that down. Can't even latch that one. So some people prefer the underlever for target shooting and stuff. More accurate, it's the fact that you not keep breaking the barrel, which means you don't put everything out of line. I've never had a problem with it, but that's people's personal choice. Obviously you will hear the difference in the noise here.
Oh, yes.
It's a bit of a crack.
Yeah.
But outside, a lot quieter, just noisy in the shop, to be fair. So this is a test pop for the pellets. So as I was just gone through the different sizes with you, then you obviously these ones are. Sorry, I have to put my glasses on, Graeme. There we go. So right, so these are all 2-2 pellets. Right, and then what you get is a 2-2 is your general size your pellet, and then you get a skirt size. And what that means is every tin of pellets you will purchase has on the back 451. 450, 452, right? And the 4 relates to the 177 being 4.5 mil plus an extra bit. So the skirt size.
So there's a weight to the pellet as well.
There's a weight to the pellet, and then there's a skirt size. So I'll show you on the big pellet, it's easy to describe. So this would be your skirt size around the back, which houses in the base of the actual gun. Right, and what this explains on here is you've got 551, 552, 553. It's the same pellet, which is JSB Diablo Exact Jumbo. 3 different variations in skirt, and this is the weight sizes here. You can see, so 1589 grains, that's the weight size of your pellet, and then you go down to, I'm going to have to tune my eyeballs in there, Graeme, sorry.
What is it like inside, so show people the inside?
So inside, so right, you can see now, that's a different shaped pellet there to the other ones.
Yeah, and the reason for those different shapes
Different shapes. Every gun prefers different pellet, so it isn't just as simple as buying a pellet for your gun, because you can stick a new one in that, and then all of a sudden you'll find that the one with the thicker skirt or the thinner skirt will actually perform better in your gun than just the standard one. So it's worth buying if you get really into your target shooting or your vermin shooting, you want to scope in, is buy a test pot. This particular test pot, you actually get 7 different types of pellets and 30 pieces in each. So you'll get 30 of each pellet to try out in your gun to see if it performs better or not.
Quite a good idea if you're really into it and target shooting as well.
Rather than buying a tin of 500 there, another tin of 500, another tin of 500, and then you end up with pots and pots of pellets like I used to growing up trying different things. So a test pot to start with if you get really into it, to actually see the difference in variations of pellets.
You do servicing as well, don't you?
We do servicing, so we actually strip the guns down, reseal everything, put them back together. We redo springs in guns. We are going to offer actually a sighting in service, because a lot of people struggle to sight in the air rifles at times. They get a bit lost. I think they just get a bit
left and right too much. Been there, got the t-shirt.
And I'll show you on another video a couple of little tricks about how you can tell if your scope, if you've really wound it out of place, is actually looking at it through it the wrong way round.
Oh really?
You can see if they don't line up perfectly, you've overwound it. So
a lot of tips in there for guys.
There's a lot of tips. So we will be holding like little sessions where we take a group of people up to say Bisley on one of the ranges, and you can bring your guns down, and we teach you how to sight them in and use them correctly.
Oh, brilliant, Graeme. I think that's good fun. I mean, Mike's got a PCP 177, I've got the old Spring 22, and we have fun with them. So that's what it's about, enjoyment at the end of the day.
So they're target shooting, vermin shooting, brilliant.